how important is emotional engagement? Because at the dining table, engaging people emotionally, taking them on that journey is super important. And I remember a little while ago, as a team, we were thinking about all the ways, all the different emotions that you could take people through as part of this kind of journey. And the obvious ones that stand out are kind of nostalgia and happiness and fun and very positive kind of emotions that you want to stir in people. But we also wanted to tap into emotions that were maybe a little less explored during dining experiences. So things like disgust. Now, not in a way that we actually want to make people feel disgusted by what they're eating. The food, actually, if you're playing with an emotion like disgust, the food has to be really, really great to kind of balance it all out. But it's just eliciting that notion or that in the mind more than actually in the mouth. So it's not disgust about what they're actually putting in their mouth. That tastes delicious, but it's maybe a perception. So, even if you look at one of the dishes that we have is based around jellyfish. So just using that as an ingredient, because of the perception that most people have about jellyfish and the connotations that they have linked to jellyfish, there is an element of disgust that comes into their mind when they first think. It's the same with insects, let's say. There's an initial hesitance for most people, especially Western palates, especially here in London. Something like insects or jellyfish seem a bit obscure. So there is that kind of initial hesitance towards it, but then we get them to overcome that by tasting something delicious. Fear is another one that we wanted to work with, and we thought that's something that there's all sorts of things with food that people are afraid of. I mean, we have so many fears linked to food, which for me as well even comes down to something very innate, where even if you put a little bit of syrup or something sweet on a baby's lips, they'll try and take it in because it's energy. If you put something bitter, we'll try and kind of expel it. There's all sorts of things that we dislike about food. So fear was another one that we wanted to tap into. Again, it wasn't actually making people feel fearful, but it was just bringing that emotion into the mind. How does this work with magic?
I mean, there's two parts to this question, really. I mean, the first was an engagement, and that's the key in magic. You can't perform magic without people actually engaging in what you are doing, and so you are taking your audience on a journey, and that is completely necessary, because as a magician, it's impossible for me to misdirect a person's attention if they're not attending to what you're doing in the first place. So that level of engagement is essential for any magic trick to work. And the emotions play a fundamental role in any magic experience. Some magicians play around with emotions much more so than other magicians. And I think your idea of exploring negative emotions is a really interesting one, because magic, in some ways, it should be a negative experience. I mean, you mentioned the deception, but also it can be incredibly confusing as well. It can be quite frightening as well. And I think one of the things that really captivates people about magic is not just the humour or the funny emotional experiences, but it's some of these negative emotional experiences as well. And the key to this is being able to embrace these experiences within a safe environment. If you think about the lying, if I'm talking to you now, if I'm just lying to you, you wouldn't really like this. I mean, it'll feel like quite an offensive experience. Whilst if I'm telling you, okay, look, I'm going to show you a magic trick, as soon as I've set those parameters of framing this as a magic performance, then anything is possible, and any forms of deception and lying are completely acceptable. And the key to this is being able to experience these negative emotions within a safe environment. If you can do that, then these negative experiences and emotions can be experienced as something very positive. In the same way, you go and watch a horror film, for example, you see some really negative, really horrendous things. If you'd see them on your way back from the cinema, that would be very unpleasant, but because you know that you're in a movie theatre, it's a safe environment, and so you can actually embrace these negative experiences. And it's probably the same with the jellyfish. as well. If I'm walking down on the beach in Cornwall and there's a jellyfish lying on the beach, there's no way I would try that because it looks absolutely disgusting. But if you're in a dining experience where you feel, okay, I'm safe, I'm not going to be poisoned by any of this, it's likely to taste nice, then I think playing around with these emotions can be really exciting, in the same way that that's what magic does, and that's what all good art does. It elicits strong emotional experiences. They can be positive but also negative. If you can embrace them in a safe environment, that can be a very powerful psychological force.